Hello everyone, my name is Paul Tremlin. I'm a creative director and aspiring filmmaker who loves storytelling. And I wanted to begin a new video series called Real Stories, a behind the scenes breakdown, the story behind the stories of some of the projects I've been a part of. Today is episode 1. It's the first one. I'm really excited for it. We're going to talk about FCA Greater Film. It's one of the latest projects that I have shot, and it's one of my favorites. I wanted to go ahead and walk you through the journey of what it took to make this short film. Basically, the backstory of this short film is this is a project for FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and every year they host in the 618 area a 618 luncheon. It's a big event where hundreds of coaches come together and they hear from special guest speakers and they get to learn about whatever that theme was going to be for that year when it comes to FCA. And so our film basically was going to go ahead and play right before the main speakers, and it was going to speak on the theme of the year, which is greater. The film ended up being shot in 2 separate days with 3 different parties. And so we ended up shooting 2 athletes during the daytime and then a coach and his wife during an evening a couple of days later. The whole heartbeat of the short film was basically to authentically show how these 3 different parties were going to allow God to be used in their lives to be able to have a greater impact in their community, in the region, in the world. And I really believe this film does that. It did a really amazing job. We had great feedback on it. So I want to go ahead and begin diving in. Here we go.
I'm consistently asking the Lord to open my eyes to what He wants for my life.
I want to be a greater influence to my peers so they can experience the things that I experienced throughout FCA.
I just know the impact that having a relationship with Jesus has made a difference in my life and our lives. And
okay. Favorite shot out of the entire production. I was collecting B-roll after the interview questions, and I wanted to go ahead and try to get different just shots of this coach's wife with her husband. I told him, we're all done shooting. That's a wrap. But I let the camera keep rolling. And once I said that, and then I made a little joke, this shot happened. My first storytelling tip here would just be let your shot breathe. Allow your shot to continue an extra 15, 20 seconds beyond what you think it should. This was not supposed to be collected. I told them I was done shooting, and I wasn't done shooting. And so there's your first little tip for you, is just let the shot breathe. We're going to keep moving here.
I want other people to experience that same opportunity to grow spiritually.
This is the theme verse for FCA.
I think for me, it started going to a FCA baseball camp. I was invited by an area coach. Really just made me think about more what I wanted to be about. That led into one of my players asking me, hey, do you want to be an FCA huddle coach? And at the time, I hadn't been attending church on a regular basis.
When Tim got invited to do this for FCA, I thought this is the perfect opportunity for us to go to church. I was just kind of interested in doing it. Took us a while to get into the groove and be consistent with going, but we've been growing together ever since.
I grew up in a Christian household. Like many, though, I didn't really understand what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pause here. As you can tell in this shot, it's incredibly windy, and it wasn't supposed to be. In the morning, it was gorgeous. And then as we were starting to set up and it was getting later in the afternoon, it got windy. So my original plan for collecting audio was just gonna be able to have a shotgun mic on a C-stand and be able to, you know, collect it in that way. And then all of a sudden I realized it's too windy for that. It's not gonna work. And so I had a backup plan, just a wireless pack with a lav. And what I did is I then rotated the athlete here to be able to allow her body to block the wind, and then just allowed that lav to live right behind that wind block with her body. And it turned out really, really good. So I was actually really nervous at first with how windy it was. I would recommend, if you're in that situation, we couldn't go indoors because we're out, you know, on a track field. And so the best thing that we could do at that point was just to use her body as a shield against the wind. And it worked out really well. And I'm excited how it turned out.
It wasn't until about my junior year in high school that I really got to know who Jesus was. And I remember him specifically asking me of what his life meant for, if it's not one worth living for me.
the use of typography to create unique transitions in order to keep your viewers engaged. And so this was a single camera production. I only had one camera with me. I would have moments where my camera would be on the tripod, and then I would take it off and have handheld shots. But then also I would then introduce typography, especially in moments where I felt like the statement is really impactful. A shot like this where it's just typography, it's a blank screen with just these words. The words seem to have a little bit more impact. All of a sudden they punch you a little bit more. So right here, this athlete is talking about how God put it on her heart that, you know, what is a life worth if it's not one worth living for me? And so not only is that statement powerful, but I really felt as we were going through the editing process of this, that being able to break this up and really highlight that line is more, it would allow the audience to connect with it more versus if I just had her say it on screen.
Being a coach's wife can be super challenging. It caused a lot of turmoil in the beginning of our marriage. So from 25 to 30, it was just the two of us and our relationship, not Jesus. And it was tough. You know, sometimes as a coach's wife, not everyone agrees with every decision that he makes or likes him, or, you know, there's a lot of turmoil sometimes. And so I always have God to pray about that too.
Gonna back it up. I didn't plan on talking about this, but it might not be easy for you to see during this breakdown, but if I go back a little bit, let's see if we can rewind here real quick. One thing that's been always very important to me is capturing emotion, capturing authenticity. If you notice here, as I kind of back it up and then go forward right here, you can see the coach's Adam apple right here. You can see him. He's having just like this gulp. He realizes what his wife handles and it's choking him up. It's impacting him, and that's special. Those small details. I thought that was really impactful and authentic.
God to pray about that too. If there's an issue with a parent or a player, I always pray about that God can, you know, resolve that issue instead of getting so anxious and worked up like I used to.
I want God to have a greater influence throughout my teammates' lives. And I want them to have success. And success is following Jesus.
As a coach, when I started out, I felt like everything needed to be perfect.
Okay, another one, creating different angles. So like I had mentioned earlier, this was a single camera production. And so I wanted to make sure that I could get multiple angles during the interview process in order to break it up so that, one, it feels a little bit more cinematic. Two, again, it keeps your viewer engaged longer. I had a game plan though going into this of, okay, I'm going to ask one question on the tripod and then I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to go at a 45-degree angle and then I'm going to go to the next question, then put it right back on the tripod. And that's how you can break it up. So it's a simple way, but again, going with a plan. And then once you're actually in the interview process, if you feel like there's an answer that would connect more intimately with your audience, maybe from a different angle, then go through it again. Ask them, say, hey, can you answer that question again? I want to get a different angle for that. Multiple people were asking, how many shooters were on? Did you have two shooters? And the answer is no. This is myself, one camera doing this production.
Perfect. And then I realized my own imperfections, and that as much as I want the players to do the best that they can, I realize that they're going to have mess ups. So I want to be there along that supporting, because God's given me a lot of grace.
I want to be greater at saying yes to opportunities that the Lord provides me and not let fear get in the way. He actually presented an example for me. There was this homeless man coming and sitting outside of the restaurant that I ate for lunch. And I got in my car and I was just feeling that God was calling me to come talk to him and put it on my heart. And I had this book that says, "Have no fear." And unfortunately, I didn't have enough courage to go up to that man. And
okay, final point of the video. Two things here. Number one, I don't know if you caught it. We'll go back and see if you did. The tone changes. The score, the music goes from this ambient kind of uplifting to all of a sudden it shifts to more like somber. She's sharing a story about how she failed in doing what she believes God was wanting her to do. How authentic is this, and how brave of her to be willing to open up and share that? Like, that's awesome of her to be willing to share that. Number two, this was the most impactful moment of the entire film for people. Understanding that this athlete felt called to talk to someone, give something to someone, bless someone, and she didn't have the strength to do it. People were like, wow, I've been there. I can relate. I felt that. My encouragement is to allow those authentic moments to come through.
And I had this book that says, have no fear. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough courage to go up to that man and give him this book that the Lord was putting on my heart. Unfortunate that story is continually just pursuing and asking the Lord to give me the courage and the strength to act on what he wants me to do in my life. So, yeah. He must become greater.
He must become greater.
He must become greater.
I must become less.
So the heartbeat of the film is this concept of where people are weak. In our own strength, we will fail. And so it's all about God becoming greater in their life and in our lives so that we can do the things that we can do greater things. So a lot of people shared how impactful the film was and they were blessed by it and super blessed to tell it. So thank you to FCA for the opportunity to tell this story, and thank you for diving in with me on the real stories behind the story today. So know that you were wonderfully and fearfully made. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.